Hello. So we have previously discussed the theory of comparative advantage. So in this lesson, I'll discuss some common myths and misunderstandings about the comparative advantage. So firstly, what does the theory of comparative advantage uh, state? So I already introduced it in the previous lessons, but just to repeat. So the main idea is that trade between two countries can benefit both countries if each country exports the goods in which it has a comparative advantage. So, and I'm emphasized that this is a statement about possibilities, not about what will actually happen. So still, it is very commonly argued that free trade is beneficial only if your country is strong enough to stand up to foreign competition. So if you phrase this argument in terms of Ricardo's theory, then it would kind of seem to imply that only if country has an absolute advantage in some good, then it is beneficial to trade. But notice that this David Ricardo's argument was carefully based on the countries like England and Portugal, where the other country has an absolute advantage. So in Ricardo's example, England did not have advantage. England was not really strong enough to stand up for Portuguese competition, either in wine or clothes, but still free trade was beneficial to England as well. And this is the idea behind the comparative advantage, that in particular the country does not need to have any advantage. It can specialize to a good where it has a comparative advantage. And if there is enough goods, then definitely every country can find some good where it has a comparative advantage. So it's not necessary to have an absolute advantage in any good. No, then of course the opponents of free trade and globalization would then argue that foreign competition is unfair and hurts other countries when it's based on low wages. So this is also known as a so-called pauper labor argument. So let's get back to this that in terms of this Ricardo's example of England and Portugal. So perhaps the low cost of wine production of Portugal could be due to more favorable weather conditions and climate, but it could also be, for example, that in terms of clothes, especially that workers are paid less in Portugal. That might well be the case that you would have lower wages that would give this advantage. But for this comparative advantage, it doesn't really matter ultimately that is it based on wages or labor productivity? What really causes this comparative advantage? In some sense, I think both matter. The wage rate and productivity would matter, but ultimately, if there is some kind of comparative advantage, then and typically there must be, then anyway the trade is beneficial to both countries. So this argument is based on that. Okay, how this wage differences affect not just the productivity differences, but also wage differences matter. But this doesn't really change the argument of that the trade is beneficial to both countries. Now then, perhaps the last one, which maybe has some merit, is we can argue this is based on this Krugman et al. Textbook that this kind of myth number 3 states that trade exploits a foreign country and makes it worse if its workers receive much lower wages than workers in other nations. So of course it might be that someone is exploiting foreign workers in a foreign country, and then of course if you think about some kind of for example child labor, then of course there can be a case that there is some kind of trade obstacles to trade to countries which exploit child labor, for example. But if we talk about adult workers, then it's also like can turn this question other way around. That what is the alternative? that alternative to trade, are the workers really better off in a foreign country if they do not have the opportunity to export and earn wages through international trade? It might be that the alternative is even to condemn the workers to even deeper poverty than with trade. So this is, of course, a really tricky issue, and I would say that, of course, in some cases there can be case that like I mentioned, example of child labor, that it perhaps some kind of barriers to trade can be beneficial, but overall, then it's also good to think about what is the could there be some other ways to try to address these issues rather than make impediments to trade. So in the next lesson, then I will then discuss some factors that prevent specialization at the most extreme level as predicted by the theory of comparative advantage. Bye.